what I have a droopy eyelid,
Oh, you can't. It's hidden pretty good with the glasses.
but my grandfather has a droopy eyelid in those pictures.
It's hereditary then, huh? Skips a generation maybe?
It's a right eye.
Okay, we're rolling again. This is part 2. We're still on January 17th, 2004, and we left off talking about the Girl Scouts, I think, and the merit badges and the horses, and business was good. You added on to the house. Mom got married here. What can you remember about my mom's wedding reception?
You don't want to know about that.
Graham, I certainly do. That's where I came from.
Well, it was a stressful time. We were trying to get the rec room finished in time for the wedding.
This is
and
1961, right?
and
Probably summer of 1961.
She wanted it outside, and we had hired an orchestra. We had finished the deck and the carport and the rec room, and it was a very stressful time for me. And the night before the wedding, they had gone out to their rehearsal dinner, is that what it is?
Sure, absolutely.
And I was cleaning, and I was tired, and Les and Miriam Rondina came over, bless their dear hearts, to help me. Of course, in reality, they wanted to be in on the celebration. And I was tired and proceeded to get myself drunk.
Oh, the night before the... Well, everybody was celebrating, weren't they?
Yes, but I was drunk. Got up the next morning, I was sicker than a dog for the wedding, and I had to go get my hair done. And all the other preparations, I got through the ceremony at the church.
Which church, and what do you remember about that?
The Baptist church in Bedford.
Who attended that church? The Baptists? Was that you guys' church, or...?
Matt and I went there to a young married people's group because Bonnie had been going there. And of course, the minister had once told me, oh, I know, I didn't know the minister, but I was guarding the YMCA free swim at the Y. And it was a bunch of professionals, doctors and dentists and lawyers, but professionals.
Would come to the Y to swim?
To swim. They have a free swim at 12 o'clock. And they were playing, I think you call it water polo.
Sure.
And of course, I was taught that there was no rough stuff in the pool.
Water polo's rough, isn't it?
And I couldn't believe it. And when one man came out to me, I said, you know, you would be kicked out if you weren't, if you were younger people. I said, I don't know exactly what to think, but I said, you would be kicked out because you're much too rough. And he says, oh, I'm sorry, he said, and he introduced himself as Reverend Basil. And I introduced myself, and he said, oh, you're Bonnie's mother. And I said, yes. And he said, you know, she has asked me so many questions that I can't answer, but when she goes to college, she'll get some answers. So anyway, I was embarrassed, but I was only trying to do my job. And they were a bunch of roughnecks. But anyway, so after the wedding, I was still sick. And I think it was Phyllis that said, Mary Grace, do you have the flu? And I said, no, Phyllis, I've got a hangover. And she said, why did you tell me? I've got some stuff that would help.
Oh,
I said,
no.
well, I didn't know.
I'm
Anyway,
afraid to ask. What was her stuff that would help?
I don't know. But anyway, we got through the reception and it went on and on and on and on until about 4 o'clock. And then I went to bed. And Millie and Miriam were still out there having a ball. But anyway, I went to bed and I got up in the morning and I thought, oh my God, I'll have so much to clean up. And I don't think I had been up for an hour when everybody starts coming back. Bonnie and Jack came back and said, well, they didn't have to leave. Their flight wasn't until such and such, so they came back. And then Miriam and Les came back. And then all the others came back and we started partying all over again.
And this is the Sunday after the wedding.
This was the day after the wedding.
And the reception's still going on.
And Bonnie and Jack said, well, we had so much fun we had to come back. So it just went on again. But I'll never forget that hangover.
So the reception was outside and inside?
It was outside, the porch, the music was, beautiful, and the dancing was, we had just finished the porch.
So they were out on the deck?
On the deck. Well,
Dancing
they were all
in the...
through the house, but mostly the music was on the deck, and the bar was below.
Where did the band set up, or did you?
On the porch, on the
Okay.
deck. And then the food was in the rec room, and it was a riot. I wished I had been feeling better so I could have enjoyed it, but
Do you
I'll never
remember?
forget it. I don't think anybody else will.
Do you remember where they went for their honeymoon or anything?
No. Uh-uh.
Wow.
It's like you raided X's toy chest.
It's a big giraffe.
Great Graham was just talking about when Graham B got married.
Where's my baby? Where's my baby?
There's your little one.
Mary
But
just
anyway,
brought in
Bonnie's wedding was the one that you remembered.
a 2-day affair for sure. So then Mom moved out. No, actually, they lived in the trailer park on Lorraine Road, in North Ridgeville, I guess it was then, right?
I don't know, it was the west side.
Yeah, and they started building that house. I guess she had Dave and lived in the trailer park. And then they started building the house in Brook Park. When I came along, she moved back with you for a little while. The house was finishing. You remember that?
I remember, all I can remember is putting, what do you call that finish that we used on these walls?
Polyurethane?
No,
Shellac
polyurethane
or
wasn't in there. Hadn't come to
shellac?
Minwax.
Minwax, okay.
I remember doing minwax in her house on these little Venetian, not they weren't blinds, but on the closet doors.
Oh.
How I worked on those. When she sold that house, I was ready to kill her.
And so you were helping when they were building the Brook
Yeah,
Park house
yeah.
and painting and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm standing up.
And, you know, it was a blow when she sold it. But, then she left, you know, went to
New York,
New
Comac.
York. That was the blow. Never had any of my kids left. Hey, you. Sit here.
You want to hold that? Will you be happy? So, while Mom picked her first man, it sounds like, and married him, Sandy was dating boys. Do you remember anybody serious before RK came along? RK was first love for Sandy also? What do you remember about the first time she brought RK home? Or some early memories of RK?
Sit. 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 Don't remember much about that. We don't really want to.
He didn't have to be. I mean, RK, I've seen pictures of him, but he was a crew cut, big, solid guy in his football jersey when he.
We're not used to beards, you know.
So what did that mean? He was a bad.
No,
I mean,
no,
the
no.
perception of a beard back then.
No. It was no big deal.
And that was before motorcycle. He had motorcycles, and he was
Yeah.
very respectful, nice guy.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome to the family kind of guy.
Are you getting sleepy? Are you getting sleepy? Are you getting sleepy?
It's 7:45. The girls and the babies might be getting a little tired. But X is with his great-gram over there. He's getting so big.
Getting your picture taken.
So Sandy must have ran around with RK for a couple of years. What do you remember of Sandy's wedding? It's okay. We're all big kids now. You can-
Well, it changed suddenly.
Pacer was inbound, I think, wasn't he?
Yeah. You know, you
So
should record this.
Oh, Grandma, you know what? Well, that's fine. If you're not comfortable talking about it, that's okay. We don't have to. But in today's day and age, it's very common. I mean, look at what you're holding.
It is, but it wasn't then.
Okay, well, I mean, tell us about.
Well, Sandy's was a quiet wedding. We had it down at the Astorhurst. And it was
It's
nice.
probably 1965. I was born in 64. Pacer was born in 66. So
Yeah.
I guess in 1965.
So they had their apartment, and she was still working at the Dairy Queen. Oh, in the meantime, Nancy had bought the Dairy Queen.
You know what? We didn't even talk about the Dairy Queen. Let's go way back to when you started. You were going to do another business or something on the side of Grandpa's business. You were going to open a Dairy Queen. Tell me how that all started.
That all started suddenly. Matt came home and said, "How would you like a Dairy Queen?" And I said, "Not really." And so he took me down there and introduced me to the Faths.
Okay, so the Dairy Queen was there and built and up and running before you guys bought it.
They were one of the first soft serve, whatever you call it,
Ice milk,
other
right?
than the Euclid,
Euclid Beach?
Euclid Beach. So they had built up a good clientele, and Matt had been stopping there, and he said every time he went, he'd say, "When are you going to sell it?" So finally, this one time, they said, "Well, what do you want to pay for it?" So here they had been discussing this. What, honey? What?
So you had no idea, but Grandpa had
No.
been negotiating
And
to
he
buy
said,
this business.
"What would you think about it?" And I said, "Well, what do I have to do?" He says, "As little as possible." So we bought it.
Do you remember how much?
All I had to do was open it and run it until the kids came home. Hey, we're having our picture took. Yeah. So anyway, he
bought the Dairy Queen.
bought the Dairy Queen. In the meantime, I had joined a golf club.
You did. Grandma was playing golf.
Yeah,
And the girls were at school?
yeah, they were all in school.
So this is, can you remember 1955, something like that? 56?
We saw
I
one
don't
more.
remember,
They
but
ate.
Nancy
anyway,
would be in elementary school.
Nancy would be 12, because she started working there at 12.
When you first got the store.
Yeah.
Okay, so 1962 maybe. 61, 62, you bought the Dairy
Anyway,
Queen. Okay.
All you have to do is open it and stay there until the kids got out of school, which was, what, 3 o'clock? So in the meantime, I did the banking and the bookkeeping, and I had to pick up the bananas and open the damn thing, and every time
They
I had
ate
any
salad
trouble with the machines, I'd have to call him and I'd panic.
and salad and cucumber.
I hated it from the beginning.
Okay. Sounds like a lot of work, a lot of responsibility.
Well, and then we took turns closing. Nobody ever,
My letter.
you know, you had to be there to close. And when we closed, we had to take inventory.
So you're counting the money, counting the cones, counting the...
Counting
Cups.
everything, and then he'd come home and see whether we were making out good, you know.
Every day.
Every night. My
That's-
night was Sunday night.
Hey.
One of the nights was Sunday night. And it just,
Was that standard business practice back then, or...
I don't know whether it was or not, but I had to give up my golfing had to be given up because I had to leave early.
Show great grand what you got?
Look at them.
What is that?
That's a sword.
Careful,
Sword.
Yeah,
careful.
watch out for.
What else
baby
is it?
Xavier.
To me, it looks like a big icicle. You think so? Maybe?
What are you gonna do with that, Mary?
Oh no.
You gonna eat
I
it?
bet you it's gonna melt.
Gonna feel it. He's gonna
Feel it.
I felt it. It's,
cold.
ooh.
Oh, watch out, Mary.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's good. She knew.
So anyway, the Dairy Queen, Nancy was 12 years old. She was given the choice whether she wanted to work or she didn't want to work. But she knew that her daddy wanted her to work.
So I worked.
So he worked.
So
And
you after school, 7th grade, you'd go to the Dairy Queen and work.
Yeah.
So the minute the boys got there, we all had boys working until Nancy and Sandy came and Bonnie. And the minute they got there, I was out the door. But then I had to go back at nights and check the money, check the inventory, and we counted everything, every dilly damn bear.
Edit.
No, you know what? I told her, if she feels like swearing, please do, because it's a true expression of what you want to say, you know?
So anyway, the Dairy Queen was a very good business. Grandpa knew what he was doing.
Bottom.
Ever remember any, other than equipment break-in that was very stressful, any adventures with the Dairy Queen, problems, extra special good days, bad days?
Oh, 2 of the guys got to fighting and broke a window,
Oh,
plate glass window. When Nancy was working there one time, a guy came and exposed himself to her.
I see a big part.
And
I see a big
the
part.
motorcycle gang started to gather there, but the police discouraged them. But it was a good, huh?
And the break-in sometimes.
Oh, break-ins, yeah, there were break-ins, you know. We never knew whether there were.
How about the fire? Remember when we used to have an incinerator or something that incinerated? I think I
your incinerator caught on fire?
Yeah.
Wow.
But
Well, we stopped doing that after a while. Thanks.
yeah, well, they outlawed the. Want a bottle? Look at the bottle.
You want me to take them, or you want to get to them?
See if he wants it. If he doesn't want it, you can have him. You're babysitting.
Yeah, I can take them. There you go.
So, anyway, the Dairy Queen was a wonderful thing. It's just I didn't like it.
You're used to staying at home for 15 years.
Well, you know, I feel that I had done my thing. Oh no, I don't want any, thank you. That hurts my teeth.
Tastes like roofing.
Does it?
Probably is.
Or gutter.
But anyway, Dairy Queen was a wonderful thing for us. It benefited everybody. Will benefit you kids once in a while. You know,
It started a legacy in the family, absolutely. We're,
Bonnie and hers, Dairy Queen.
and Mom, I think Mom made a joke one day about the 4th generation owner over there.
Yeah, I noticed that.
But Mary's definitely a 4th generation employee. She's been paid for working at Mom's store.
It makes the
She
horse
gets paid.
run
Well, she helps out for a
like
half a day and gets $1, so she
I'm
gets
sure
paid.
Bonnie would.
You know something? Every once in a while, I think when instead of getting checks, I would get $100 in ones and give to the kids.
And that's a lot of money to
Well, you know, to somebody like that, you know.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But I thought of that every once in a while, and then I think, well, whatever.
So the business, Nancy bought it in, what do you think?
Oh, good, thanks.
So I was 21 and I was born in 49, 59, 69, 71.
1971, Nancy takes over the Dairy Queen. And Grandma continued to contribute doing bookkeeping, I think.
Oh yeah, forever. For the next 30 years.
Was always
You know,
there.
that's the only part I liked about the whole darn thing,
And that's what you were trained for way back.
way back when I graduated. But there was nothing to it. You know, the hard part was the taxes, and you turned that over to the accountant. But just the paying the bills, and as long as we had the money to pay the bills, which we always did, you know, it was a good business. And of course with Nancy and Greg, it should have been a good business because they were putting in all those hours. But I don't know what went wrong.
It was. I mean, it really was until we got divorced, I think. And then
But
I
you know, they would take 6 months off
it supported both of us. It was great.
and then came back and worked for 6 months.
Yeah, for
It
the
was.
lifestyle,
Yeah.
that you're traveling
Oh,
winter
that-
lifestyle. it was
When we
ideal.
were running, it was fine. It was when I was another business and it wasn't owner operated. It did not, work as good. Although it supported me to get into what I really wanted to do, that I really loved.
Well, it benefited you, yes,
Yes.
definitely.
Yeah. It just, I didn't keep up with the time, so to speak. Well, I don't know, maybe it didn't.
You have to, no, I know, it takes a lot of time to make it run right, and if you,
Yeah,
I
Danny
did
had
my
the
time.
same experience, you
Yeah.
know, he had
Well,
his,
I can tell you what happened. But you know what? I got the best thing out of my entire life from my store. It's my wife.
Oh,
For another tape, we'll save the story, but had it not been for my Rocky River Dairy Queen, I wouldn't have my wife, Kate, or my daughters, Olivia and Mary. So
She said, please.
definitely no regrets about my little business venture
Can
as a third generation
Let me
Dairy
up.
Queen owner.
That
I wouldn't
big
be
one
doing
by
what I love.
Great Graham's chair.
it probably meant Greg either,
That
because Greg
one
was
big
out
one.
west.
You know what,
Is
that
that
one's
where you
probably
met
as
with him
big
in
as you,
Colorado?
Mary.
No, that one right there.
You know what, I can't reach that one, I've gotta get
Oh,
one of
that's
the
a
ones
big
from
one.
over there.
She went.
But that one's as tall as you are.
Yeah.
Dad would have to go out and get that one.
No big icicles like that in the house.
I'll get you one I can reach,
Guys,
okay?
look how big one.
Big icicles can be dangerous. You have to be very careful because they're sharp and they're heavy and they can fall.
She is so
Yeah,
smart.
Mom's careful, I'm careful. And Nancy, not careful. You're not careful.
She knows me already. She's intuitive too.
Okay, Graham. Okay, we ran through the Dairy Queen.
Did you cover her childhood or anything? About
Yeah, we did. We
Some
talked
of it?
about chickens and horses and.
No, her childhood.
Yes, so that's
Yeah.
right. Big, little bit. The depression in the store, the grocery store.
Let me have it.
We were moving up through. Sandy got married and was living in an apartment with RK. What do you remember about Pacer arriving?
Oh, buddy.
Well, when Sandy, when Nancy bought the Dairy Queen,
No, she didn't. Did she?
Sandy was running it while she was in college.
And these
So she
pants?
would drop Pacer off,
Jamie pants.
and
That's
she
what
would
I
go
said.
into the Dairy
Oh,
Queen.
She got a pretty big one.
So Sandy was working at the Dairy Queen for Nancy.
Yes. So I would have Pacer, and the thing I remembered most was he enjoyed the outside. Oh, if we were outside,
Right,
he
too
was
big
right
for it, you
there.
can reach down and
And
get
I would be
something in your mouth.
pulling out like
Yeah, get that
forget-me-nots,
through
you know, weeding out, and he'd come right behind me and replant them.
Thank you.
But, and I think to myself now, he has always,
Yeah, he's continued with that.
he's always,
Outdoorsy, huh?
yeah. Oh no, don't, that'll drip all over me, please.
Mary, no. Not everybody likes to eat icicles, sweetie.
So,
Dad, I'm trying to do this
I
one right
really,
here.
I feel, well, he would have gone that way anyway, but he was just a nature guy, right from, and then he would come over later, you know, when he's grown.
Uh-huh.
You know,
Yeah,
Graham,
but-
I used to think this was the biggest place, biggest farm, and he says, now I see how big it is.
Oh, it was as a child, it was a huge. I mean, the woods, as far as a child
Sit down
knows,
on
the
your bottom
woods are all
step.
yours, and we played back in those woods and a huge front yard. And it's,
But
It's
to
all
this
relative.
day, you know, I think he's really, well, I don't know if I guided him, but he has just followed in that nature thing, and I really,
Oh!
I like that.
yeah, Pacers definitely your outdoors.
And then you kids, you know, when your mother was moving to New York, I would have you kids a
Look
lot.
it.
And I know I read to you.
I remember you would, I don't think you ever did, but you always said you were going to whale the tar out of us.
Yep, always did. Never did though, did I?
Not that I remember, but you said you were going to whale the tar out of us, yeah. But I have fond memories of playing with Dave and Pacer around here. I mean,
Yeah.
sliding down the steps on our butt, or as we got older, having squirt bottle fights in the basement.
Oh my God, all the time.
You hang on
And you
to
kids would pick on
Yes,
Pacer.
ma'am.
Oh,
Oh, yeah. Jesse, look what happened.
Well, he was the littlest.
She couldn't smell it. She didn't like it. She didn't like it so much.
and of course, you know, when your mom was little, she was playing with Arthur and Dale. They would pick on poor Joy. First, they would pick on Nancy. Then they would pick on poor Joyce.
Not me, probably Sandy. Is he sleeping?
I
Yeah.
just to it.
Dang.
But,
We lost.
you know, they just, and of course, Martha always used to say, Mary Grace, I don't wanna complain.
Don't.
But Bonnie is always doing this, and of course you talk
But
to
Jesse
Arthur.
was going.
Boy, did we
No.
have her,
What was he going?
No pizza.
how did he put it? But it was them, you know.
Way up high.
You're right.
And then they'd tell it was Bonnie, you know. So Bonnie would get the blame. Didn't bother Bonnie much, you know, she's pretty
I know, I shouldn't put it down.
staunch.
I know, Jesse, anything on the floor you think is
But
yours. And you're kinda right.
she was,
I got my hands full though.
you know,
with
she
this
was
one.
raised with the
Wanted
two,
to be in my lap,
Dale
you
and
see.
Arthur. And they
So I couldn't
were,
help it.
Toughened her up growing up with a couple older boys.
yeah, they were
Wish
outdoor
I-
types. I still have a couple of holes in my windows from BB guns.
Hey, this is kinda cold in my hand. How
Huh?
long do I have to
Gotta
hold it?
eat this.
I guess Mom and Dad went on a
Wow, it's too
trip
long.
to Paris, Bonnie and Jack, and did we stay with you for a week or something, or how'd that work? Do you remember, did you come to New York and watch us, or how'd that work?
And this will
Lord, I
melt.
don't know.
It's too.
I don't remember that.
Do you remember driving up to New York and visiting us,
Oh,
bringing
I
Pacer?
remember driving up to New York.
You sure?
Grandpa and I was going under some damn bridge 2 or 3 times trying to find our way.
The same bridge.
The same bridge.
Grandpa used to tell a story about Pacer riding in the back. Is how long till we get there? 5 more minutes. 5
Oh,
more
well,
minutes.
that was always with kids, gosh.
And then when you were finally 5 minutes from the house, he said, "I don't believe you anymore." And then you were there in 5 minutes.
But
That was
I
quite.
remember the time we were on the boat fishing in the blowfish. Do you remember any of that?
Yes, I do. I
Oh,
remember.
Lord, that was
They'd
so,
puff up and we'd pop them on the deck and we get bags and bags of those darn things.
that was so funny though. You kids had so much fun.
This is what
You know, I remember the sea robin,
can't be happening.
and I've never seen one since, but I remember a very colorful fish, and if we caught one, it wasn't a good eating fish. We'd throw it back, but it was the neatest looking thing. It had fins that came out, and it was red and had big eyes, and it was called a sea robin.
Daddy,
That's what
look,
the
the
fish.
baby down was. It's soaking.
It's melting. But those fishing trips and flounder, we'd catch flounder and puffers, but bunches and bunches of them. We'd have bags of, big plastic bags of filleted puffer fillets, right? Is that what we did? We ate them, or were they flounder fillets? Do you remember?
Flounder maybe. I think the puffers they were not eating.
Flounders, the flat ones that had eyes that looked.
Yeah. So you'd come out to New York to see us once a year or something, and we'd come home.
Yeah,
Couple
we
of
would
times.
go out.
Just
I
wasn't too
hated
hard to hold,
driving
right?
in New York. It just used to drive me wild. Because, you know, Grandpa didn't drive much.
But it was good
I
sometimes.
drove and he would
Look
navigate.
at that big one.
And of course,
But it didn't
usually he
work,
was good. But going through those little
more
tunnels and,
manage- easier to
oh
manage.
Lord.
More fun.
It was a challenge, huh?
Well, you know, at that time it wasn't so bad, but I still get frustrated. Now I would just quit.
Oh no. Speaking of driving, I've heard people talk about a California trip. Did you load up all the girls in a car and drive all the way to California once?
Through the desert during the daytime with no air conditioning.
What?
And what happened in
Tell-
Nancy?
Tell me what
I
you
thought
can about
maybe-
that trip. Let's start at the beginning. Why'd you decide you had to drive to California?
Brad Thompson was one of the partners in the beginning,
Mhm.
and he lived out there and invited us to come. So we had this station wagon and we drove out there. And crossing the desert,
So
afterwards, people told us, well, you never cross the desert in the daytime.
That's the problem.
So
you loaded up the station wagon and with all the girls
all the girls,
and you guys, you
Yeah.
two and the 3 girls in the station wagon headed for California.
and it was daytime when we went into the desert. Nancy was not feeling well, and you know you touch the fender in the inside, the wheel covers,
It burned you.
it burnt you. She was sick. I thought she was dying.
It feels away.
She had such a high
It
fever.
feels away. It feels away.
Hallucinating.
And we were,
Really?
I think I was only little too.
It feels away.
she was not an
How do you
infant,
feel
but a
about that?
Toddler.
toddler.
Good.
And, I was frustrated. I hate traveling anyway.
Matches this.
But we
You know
made
matches?
it, and then people
What
told
matches?
you,
Can
you
tell?
shouldn't be driving on the
Doesn't
desert
it?
in
Which
daytime, especially without air conditioning.
Oh dear.
And
So you're just hanging your heads out the window to get some breeze, or
I was driving and so mad that
Yeah.
I was taking care of Nancy and he was driving.
okay.
Bonnie by that time had learned to navigate. Before she could navigate,
Yeah.
I would drive most of the way and then I would have to navigate. And I would get sick reading the map,
Looking down while you're moving along.
and I hated to travel. I figured that when I traveled, it was just more of a chore without any of the conveniences of home. You know, I had to cook, I had to wash the kids' clothes out, and I hated it. But anyway, we got there, and first thing we did, we wanted to go in the pool, so we laid our towels on the grass, and Brad came out and said, "Hey, you can't lay your towels on the grass. This kind will die if you cover it." So
What kind
anyway.
of grass can't you lay on, right? Yeah.
Anyway, then they took their kids were older, and they took our kids to some amusement park,
Whoa.
and we went to Las Vegas to gamble on a little plane.
We
I
went to
hated little plane, I
Disneyland,
hated,
some amusement park, Disneyland.
Okay, you got to see Disneyland, and the adults went to Vegas, okay.
and I hate flying, and I hated to fly in these little planes that were so noisy. But we went, we gambled,
What do you remember about Las Vegas back then? This is 60s, 55, 57 probably?
I just remember you put money in the slots and nothing came out.
Put it in the trash.
It's about Vegas. Hasn't changed much since then.
And, you know, then we were coming home, the kids were in shorts because it was so hot, and we were crossing the mountains and it was snow. So they got out in their shorts and we took pictures of, and we have pictures someplace of them
Playing in the snow.
playing in
and-
the snow in shorts.
Mom, let's play giraffes.
So
You be the baby.
it was, you know, that's our trips. You know, the kids had seen every state in the Union, but nothing really that interesting. You know, they wanted to go into the caves and see the zoos on the side of the road, and Matt would never let them do that. He said that was a bunch of junk. It was just a bear in a cage, which it was, or an alligator.
Okay, do you think I could ever
But,
take care of myself when you're
It
gone?
just,
I'll be okay even though you're gone?
Yeah.
Good. I feel better now.
Little Nana moved in somewhere along the way. Lowell
well,
lived with Little Nana, and
Lowell was the same as Chuck and Big Nana. He said, "Can't you take her for a couple of days?" So we would invite her to stay for a while with us. And she'd be here 3 days or 4 days, and she'd say to us, "I've got to call Lowell." And of course, she'd call Lowell and say, "Come and get me, I want to come home."
so Lowell's always lived in that house in Bracknell. I mean, he did.
No,
his-
she lived in East Cleveland.
You have to listen to my rules.
Okay, I'll listen to your rules.
But
Should not hit the stove then because
he always wanted to live in Bracknell for the name, you
I
know,
won't let the
Bracknell.
dolphin
Was
down.
that was prestigious back then?
Yeah, but Mother wouldn't move because she wanted to be close to the East Cleveland Church.
What if I'm bad sometimes?
So
Oh,
she,
Is that okay if I make mistakes?
yeah.
Oh, good.
If
she
you,
died, and
if you want your ball,
she died, then he moved to Bracknell, I think.
If you want your ball, I'll come
I
back.
seem to recall visiting Bracknell at
And listen
Lowell
to
and
your
Nana's
sister.
house. I thought.
Okay.
I mean, I
always
remember
listen
the
to
bowl
your
of mints
sister.
and the house. I have very, very vague memories of the house in Bracknell, but
Nancy, if you put him up or burping, he's ready. He's sleeping.
but I really think every time I went to the house, that's the only house I remember, Bracknell, Lowell and Nana lived there. Nance, you wanna shed any light on this? Do you remember? Okay. She'll be back in a minute.
Well,
But-
you were at Nana's East Cleveland house because we have pictures of you kids on
Oh,
the steps.
Okay. But to me, Bracknell is East Cleveland. You know, I guess I don't know where you mean when you say East Cleveland.
Let's go to the
Oh, East Cleveland's us.
We go tell my dear.
But where? What
She
what
died.
street and neighborhood?
Oh, Noble Road.
There you are. I was worried.
Noble Road.
I got to spray the past. You did?
You know where
I
the
listened to the sister and you came back.
GE light display is at Christmas? Neela Park?
Well, we just don't get to the east side that often.
Where are you from? You're not
No, Neela
from
Park
You're not
is there,
from
no, Noble Road, but it's a bad neighborhood now, real bad.
Okay.
Hey, listen
But
to your
we had
mom.
bought that, you
No
know, when he
fighting.
was in the no, he was in civil service. You know, after he left the service, he went back to Japan,
Lowell did.
Lowell did. And he was there for years, and in the meantime, Mother wanted to get out of 99th Street. So Matt and Jack looked for a place and found a place that had an up and a down so that she could use her house as a down payment, and then the downstairs would pay the payments.
Right.
So she was happy with that because the people from the church would pick her up and take her to church. Lowell was angry because he didn't like the neighborhood. He wanted Bracknell. So anyway, he finally bought Bracknell. He had the opportunity to buy a house there.
And it was a split too, right? It was an up and
No,
down.
no, it's a single family.
Okay, well, I do remember a split then. It was,
Well, the split was in East Cleveland.
okay, all right. I remember that house, yeah. They
But
were upstairs.
anyway,
They had a
he,
balcony out front. Okay.
He was happy there the last few years with David, and so. But Mother would come out here because Lowell wanted to get away from her, and he wanted his men friends in there. You know, so she would come out here for a while. You know, I said, "Come spend a week with me," you know, because we had room for her, and I would take her places, you know.
How
drive
did
her-
she like, the girls and
Well-
us, her great grandkids?
You know, she liked them, but never any big deal about it.
Do you think there was any inclination that she knew what? I mean, did she ever talk to you anything about Lowell's alternative?
No,
Nothing.
I think she must have known. I don't know if she knew the terminology or any of that, but I think she knew he was different. But I know she called me one time and said, "You've got to come in, Lowell is sick." And I said, "Well, how sick?" And she says, "Well, he's out of his head." So I went in, and I thought out of his head meant delirious, you know. I went in, and he had a fever, but he was,
Keep going. I'm gonna check on Mary. I hear a door open.
When was this?
what?
When was
She's
this?
okay.
Well, this was
So-
when Lowell was sick, and,
With his heart?
no,
I want
this
pilot
was,
examples.
I don't know, a flu or something, but I went up in his
No,
room,
you
and
can
it was,
grab someone.
Oh, you didn't ask me to play with you.
ghastly, you know, men's magazines
Are
and
you asking me to play with you? And you'd like me to be the
what have you. And I said, "Well,
giraffe?
did you call the doctor?" And he said, "No, I'm all right." So I don't know, really, I can't remember whatever happened there.
He's feverish, delusional.
Well, he was really sick, but
Come on.
I just feel that he had lost his temper maybe or something. But
Talk.
I'm sleeping.
so I tried to keep Mother out here, but you know, the minute she'd get kind of homesick, she'd
You're sleeping?
call Lowell and come get me.
Okay, so she never officially lived here. She'd just come stay with you for a few days here
As
and there.
much as I could get her to, but you know, she wanted to be home. She was
It's
homesick.
picking up.
You're kinda right.
That's not
Gotcha.
funny.
Let's see.
He looks like he's sleeping, doesn't he?
Dave was your first
Okay.
grandchild.
Hey, what's
Mom had him
No.
a year or so after they got married, right?
Right.
What was it like being a grandma for the first time?
Can I
Do
say
you
something?
remember about coaching your daughter on how to be a mom?
I'm trying to
No.
grow up.
And I still
sometimes
don't.
My mother
Even on the basics?
puts all
Feeding
these
them,
rules on me and I don't like it.
Changing and diapering and
No, you know
sleeping.
your mother.
So what should I do?
She knew it, how she knew how to raise us.
Sometimes if I don't want to put it
I don't know, that's a long time ago. But I do know now that I
You
don't
can't have any more popsicles.
try to tell anybody anything
You
because
can just have one.
Sarah brought a bunch of books and you know
What if I
she's
want two?
she's pretty aware, you know, of what they should be doing and what's normal and what is not normal. So I figure, hey, I'll go along with that because I don't know anything.
Will
You
cry.
know, it's an
Because they
entirely
won't have
different.
any? Can I just have
I
a
nursed
ball?
my kids till they were 9 months
Why?
old.
Because
that-
everybody
and the
wants
doctor
to
said,
laugh.
Oh, I don't want
If
everybody
you can
to
feed them if you want to,
Okay.
you know. So then you'd start
Oh,
feeding
maybe
them
have
the
one. But
cereal
sometimes I
or
like to have so many and I forget
whatever.
to think about
Yeah.
the other kids.
But
Is that
they
bad?
were all nursed until they were about a year old,
I'll work on it, Mom.
and
Okay.
Then, you know, you didn't have formula back in those days, right? You just went to milk.
well, I don't know if they had
Here's one.
formula, but I just automatically nursed them.
This is
And 9 months to a
popsicle.
year, then you started giving regular milk.
Popsicle.
I can't
was-
remember.
But
It
heck,
doesn't look
Bonnie
like
was
popsicle.
raised on
Oh,
raw
yeah.
milk,
I must be telling
straight
you.
from the cow.
and did you know someone with a cow, or did the milkman deliver that, or what? How'd that
No,
work?
we had a farmer up the road, and I asked the
Did
doctor,
all
I
the
said,
other kids get popsicles?
do I have to buy pasteurized milk?
Oh, good, so
And
I
he
can
said,
have this one now?
Yeah.
Because that's important that everybody.
Cows around here are pretty healthy, I
You
wouldn't
said,
worry
Mom.
about it.
Okay.
So they were raised in the beginning on raw milk.
That's not so good.
Just leave it. I see a couple of birds up there in the quilt. Chicken.
Well, we always had parakeets.
It's the pheasant.
And the
Symbolize-
pheasants, we had pheasants in the lot before Nick built.
I did mess over there.
Was another fenced in area instead of chickens? They had their own, or they ran with the chickens, or how'd that work?
No, it was just a big empty field.
Oh, so they were wild pheasants.
Wild pheasants, oh yeah.
Come on,
And
let's be
you just
loud.
feed them, or
Yeah, it was
Hunt 'em.
fun.
Everybody's loud.
we didn't talk much about Grandpa other than his golfing, and he worked hard to.
He was a workaholic.
You think?
That was one of the bones of contention, especially when he started his own business.
And when you say started his own business, the Dairy Queen or the
No,
partner
the
in the
API.
API? Yeah.
Yeah.
And he spent a lot of hours.
Yeah. And I was here with 3 kids and a mother-in-law for company. And in those days, you didn't go out on your own. You had to go with a husband, you know.
So you were pretty much stuck at home.
Yeah.
But it's all women. Grandpa had 5 women to come home to, right?
And female dogs.
And,
So.
who do you see, Mary? Mary's looking through the camera now. Don't move it, sweetie. Just leave it on Great Grandma.
What do you see in there,
Just
Mary?
gonna get her eye up to it.
And she's looking through the viewfinder. Do you see Great Grandma? Now that she's found her camera. Could be proud.
Did we get to Nancy
She said, "Oh, Nancy." That's all she said. I wasn't going to ask her to talk about you while you're here, but she could share. If you could, Sandy, you said Bonnie loved outside.
Let's Great Graham. Just look.
You gotta sing a song about Great Graham?
No. Come on. Now's not the time to play with this, sweetie. Come on over here.
Hey, I'm just looking. I'm just looking.
Well, there's how you look. Now go sit on Great Grandma's lap, okay? Very gently. Sit next to her, would you? There you go. This is Mary Grace and Mary Grace, as everybody knows, because she was the first girl. I got to use the best name we knew. Come on, hop back in the chair with Great Grandma, please. I'm going to turn this around. Go sit in the chair, and I'll show it to you. Go sit down. You can sit with Great Grandma. Okay. She's found a whale. She's off. All right. Where were we? Out of your 3 daughters, Bonnie, Sandy, Nancy, you want to share any insight into how they got their names? Bonnie Jean.
Bonnie was named for a girl that I knew in my Sunday school class that was so nice, and I loved her name.
Jean? Bonnie Jean? Was she Bonnie Jean, or was Jean?
Bonnie Jean.
Okay. Sandra.
Sandra, I don't know. We just sort of.
Has to wake up and kiss it.
Just kind of winged that one. Nancy.
Not my mouth.
I just can't think of, I wanted a name they wouldn't be ashamed of.
You wake up the baby giraffe. Then kiss the doll. Ben, could you do it? Come on,
It
do
sounded
it.
like you were involved in all kinds of activities with all the girls, but any different personalities, but as the 3 developed. You said Bonnie and Sandy didn't play much, but Nancy and Sandy were best friends. But as they were growing up, and as we're looking at the next generation coming up, and we see these personalities developing, what do you remember about your daughters when they were real
Well,
little?
it seemed like they were alike when they were little, but as they grew older, you could tell.
You know how it's
Bonnie was
no.
an aggressive, not afraid of pushing, Sandy and Nancy were very retiring, hung back, Sandy always felt that she...
I really want to see a
she used to
dolphin
say,
stand
I
there.
don't know why they let me go with them, her group, But she felt that she had an inferiority complex. But she felt that...
You know, Witcher is called like...
5 years, few years younger than
No, I mean the girls that she was with in
Oh,
her
okay.
in her class. She felt she often said, "Why they include me?" And I says, "Hey, you've got a lot to offer." I kept encouraging. And with Nancy, she was with a group that they just went along, and they were sort of the upper echelon, wouldn't you say? You were.
cheerleaders? What you guys do at
No,
school?
but queen and assistant, what do you call
Were
them?
you prom queens? Were you?
Homecoming, assistant, whatever that.
She was, part of the,
Popular group, how's that?
popular,
Okay. And that's Nancy and her friends, right? You said?
yeah. What is that taking, this air?
No, that's got you.
Once
I
in a
knew
while.
it. As soon as Mary found the camera, we were going to get some alternative views here. Mary's playing with it.
Why don't you flip that little viewfinder thing so she can see it from the other side?
Go sit on Grandma's lap, Great Grandma's lap with the giraffe, and you can see yourself on TV. We're drawing toward the end of this tape. We've only got about 5 minutes left.
Let me see,
And,
let me see.
There you go.
Giraffe up
There you
where
can go.
see it.
There, I see Mary Grace and Mary Grace and a baby giraffe.
Yes, that's a nice giraffe.
If
Get it.
if we may, because we'll wind up with
Oh,
this.
you want a big giraffe. Oh, that's a big one.
How about, if we can, look into the future a little bit and your legacy?
God help us.
Don't worry about the status of world affairs, but the generations that have come to that have invaded, Mary Grace and Xavier and Olivia and Quinny. And I don't know. And without, how do you get too deep with a giant giraffe on your lap? But philosophies or anything you want them to see or understand, and when they get bigger and start thinking about what they're going to do with their lives, and anything on philosophy a little, any lessons you've learned. You silly girl.
Words of wisdom.
Words of wisdom. Thank you.
Mary, you wanna come over here?
I don't have any words of wisdom.
Any lessons you've
always-
learned? Life lessons?
I've raised our kids to be happy and well adjusted.
Come on, let's play some more.
In the beginning, just to be happy.
Here. You
With
have
who
your
they
stuff, I have my
were.
stuff. Now let's play.
Uh,
Play.
I've always, being a nature lover, I always felt that we should
Hiya, baby.
recycle and all of that stuff. I don't feel some of that has rubbed off.
No.
I don't think Sandy and Arcade do any kind of recycling.
We do. It's our at our new home. We have 2 trash cans now. The blue plastic one gets all the bottles and jars and such.
I
But
don't think Nancy recycles.
Yes,
I
we do,
know.
Mother.
Do you do? Well, good for you.
Absolutely.
I don't think Sarah and Travis would if I didn't insist.
so you like recycling, looking out for Mother Earth a little bit. How about
Well-
your fellow man?
Well, this is another thing. I've been reading books. Of course, I'm sure you realize that I was unethical when I started Edgar Casey study groups and astrology back in,
Why do you say unethical? Because it wasn't accepted back then?
oh no, I wouldn't tell people what I was taking when I went to Tri-C.
Yeah.
Yes, people looked down on that and didn't.
And if I told them I was meditating or going to a study group, you know, I didn't let that be known. And then I took Nancy when she was not too, a teenager or something. And so she now says I was an influence in that direction. Bonnie, I didn't feel ever had the inclination, but now I feel she does. And I feel Sandy has it in her, but is not formally
Addressing it.
studying or addressing it. But I just hope that they will see some things I didn't see, wasn't able to see.
Very good.
But
Very good. It's much more accepted now, more widespread.
yes, it's more accepted. And you know, it's funny. Nancy brought me a book from Florida. It's called the Code,
Oh, Da Vinci Code.
the Da Vinci Codes. It's it has to do with religion, the Catholic religion, and other criticisms of the Catholic religion. And now I am reading another one that has to do with the same author, but it is having to do with science and math versus religion. Then I ran out of material to read, and I picked up one of Grandpa's old westerns, and the darn thing refers to a forming of the Masonic lodges. And I'm asking myself, why is all of this coming up now? You know, everybody is thinking along different lines. And then back when Nancy was in college, they were doing all the drugs that were giving them extended vision. And you know, I haven't read cards for years, but things are all, people are looking for
Take that out?
something else to believe in. And I think that's something that I may never see, but I think other people will really come to know something.
Very good. Very good. But yes, I do remember very, very early my mom teaching me meditation and having chats and leaving the body and all that stuff. But to me, it's always been out there.
Oh, but it's so exciting when you find out something that you can't see or feel or hear, but it's there.
And this one won't come off?
All right. Very good. I think we're out of tape. We're going to stop the end of part 2 and let's shoot for a part 3 one of these days, okay?
Oh, God.
Thank you, Grandma.